When you're sitting with your infant in your lap, a crying preteen, and you're watching as rioters and looters are burning locations within 15 minutes of your home, it had crazy alarm clock-like powers. It was truly a wake-up call for me, this young suburban mom who had, up until this point in life, pretty much ignored politics. It was jarring enough to transform me from a hit-or-miss voter into somebody that within 3 years, I would be standing on a stage thanking the Minnesota State Central delegation for voting me in as the Minnesota GOP Secretary. Hi, I'm Jenna Dix, and I'm always rambling. Just ask my husband. I have a great family and a pretty cool life, but I'm a recovered alcoholic. That's hard to say, but my goal is to inspire and educate to help others hopefully find life beyond an addiction. I'm all things: sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Getting healthy, momming, and politics. Get offended easily? You better stop listening. There is no point in wasting that Botox by stressing yourself out listening to a podcast. Welcome to Ramblings of an Addict with Jenna Dix. Today's episode is brought to you by products and services I am thoroughly addicted to and cannot live without. Are you ready to unleash the confident, successful businesswoman within? Then it's time to meet Kelly Jahner-Byrne. As a mentor and expert on confidence, Kelly has dedicated her life to helping female entrepreneurs and business owners overcome their fears and reach their full potential. Whether it's imposter syndrome holding you back or just a lack of clarity, Kelly has the tools and guidance to help you become the best version of yourself. So don't wait any longer. Take control of your future today and become the queen of confidence. Check the show notes and get in touch with Kelly now. Since I was a little girl, I was addicted to the idea that I would have the picture-perfect family. Mom, dad, 2.5 children, nice house, nice jobs, a dog named Pal or Buddy or something of that sort. I've already previously shared in an earlier episode how we are far from a perfect family. And even when we did have a dog, her name was Bella, so it didn't fit that mold. And I can tell you, we called her B for a reason. And it's not necessarily because her name started with a B. That dog was awful. She literally would pee wherever she knew you were going to go if she was mad at you. Like, she had an attitude. So from the dog on up, that picture-perfect family concept just wasn't there. But I know deep down that God has brought me to this point in life where I feel incredibly blessed. When life around us was getting to a point that it was going more woke, as they call it, my husband and I started waking up. But in a very different way. Not that same woke type of wake up. My mom alarm was starting to go off. It's very clear as well that Mike's dad alarm was going off. And they were at points that we couldn't snooze them anymore. Especially when the riots hit locally. Minneapolis was ground zero for the riots in 2020, and we are right outside of Minneapolis, St. Paul. So it felt like in our backyards. We were watching places that we knew very well get completely destroyed. Mike and I knew that God had trusted us with this family. Yeah, these girls are ours. But more importantly, we want to live our lives with the respect that they are God's daughters first. And it's our job to fight like hell to protect them both, ensuring that they have a safe future that can be full of great opportunity. being someone who is action-oriented, like I've talked about, I'm an Enneagram 8. I'm the type of person that's about action steps. And obviously I have a very addictive personality. It did not take me long to dive in strong and begin to see, okay, how can I begin to start to make changes happen? I started paying attention to all of the current events until I was overdoing it to the point where I actually put screen time limits on my apps for all the different news outlets to help break that new addiction that I'd created, because I was watching, or reading rather, the news in all these apps for hours. And I was like, this is not healthy. So put those app limits on there. And at the same time, roughly, I started paying attention to local politics a bit more. And I reached out to a family connection that we had to see how I could get involved. After about an hour-ish long phone call with this gentleman who was in the House of Representatives at that time, I had a pretty good understanding of some great first steps that I could begin to take. So huge shout out to Keith Franke for helping me with that. So if you're ever in St. Paul Park, by the way, make sure to go check out Park Cafe. Great breakfast spot, awesome breakfast. Keith Franke, this representative, he was one of our past representatives, owns it, and the food is amazing. So onward with this story. So let me first off make it a little easier for you. So hopefully if you don't have a family connection or you don't want to spend an hour on a phone call, sorting out those first steps, I have tried to make it easier for others. So I will, in the show notes, include 2 links that will help you figure out, okay, what's a good first step? How can I get involved locally? So I will add the links to 2 YouTube videos that I created about how to find your BPOU, which you may be thinking, what the heck is a BPOU? BPOU is like your local Republican club, right? It's the local unit. Great first step. This is exactly what Keith Franke suggested I do. Find my BPOU and start attending. So check out that link. I also will put one in there about how to find affiliates, which are local clubs. Another great option for people who want to start to get more involved. So we took that first step, both my husband and I. We attended our first BPOU meeting and the floodgates opened. So that night, we met up with somebody who was, she was running for Secretary of State at the time, going for the endorsement. We told her, yeah, we would love to get more involved. So she kind of brought us on as volunteers on her campaign, literally called us the next day, and we headed out to a couple events with her that next day. The following week, we attended our first gubernatorial, which was a word I learned that night. Pretty cool. I didn't even have a clue what gubernatorial meant, which for those of you that are like, what? Governor, right? So we headed to our first governor's debate that next week, and the events just continued to keep falling into our calendar. Our calendar quickly got pretty busy. And thanks to an amazing pastor at our church and a connection that he had, I actually was offered an amazing opportunity to be one of the 4 staffers on a state campaign for our GOP auditor candidate. And I worked for him for about 10 months last year into this year. Pardon me, no, it was last year. It's a new year now. In addition, I was a kitchen cabinet member on one of our local representatives' campaign, which what that means is you're one of her close volunteers, somebody she knows is going to support her, somebody that she knows that, if she's having a rough day, she can call you, just people really in that candidate's corner, because running for office is a hard thing, and it's important to have a true tribe of supporters. And for us, like I said, we volunteered on several campaigns. I was working on a campaign. My husband was very involved as well. And the thing is, this became a family ordeal. I'm sure there's people out there that are like, that's ridiculous. Why would you drag your kids to stuff like that? Or, wow, that's annoying, right? everyone is entitled to their opinion, right? Everyone has an opinion. I have a friend that says everybody has an opinion and a butthole. And it's true, but our opinion was, well, you know what? We think it's good for our girls. They're learning a ton, maybe not necessarily Mac yet, but very soon, and she's making good connections. But yeah, they're learning a ton, and they're being surrounded by people with solid values and solid morals that align with ours. And right now, in today's time, we find so much value in that alone. So I still think it's ridiculously cool that when I was a state delegate, in addition, we went down to convention, and that's where all of the statewide candidates get endorsed. So the candidate that ran for governor, for Secretary of State, for Attorney General, and then for auditor. And this must have been a God wink, because my seating arrangement was that I was in the front row, which, I mean, there was close to 2,000 delegates there, and somehow our group winds up front row, which was amazing because that allowed Haley to be able to come and sit on the floor, right, literally on the floor in front of me, because she was a minor. So she got to take that entire event in, 2 days worth, from the front and center of the event. It was awesome. She probably doesn't tell everybody that story because a lot of her friends probably wouldn't think it's really cool, but she wrote in her journal about it. She actually took a lot away from that event. She had a really good time. And in addition to being able to sit front and center and take it in, because I was working for that auditor candidate, we got to go up on stage, and she got to go up there with us. So it was just a really cool experience for her, putting her out there. She's getting, to stand on a stage in front of 2,000 people. Not a ton of 15-year-old kids get to do something like that. So great opportunities along the way for both the girls so far as well. But anyway, so when the time came, and after some decent amount of praying, it was clear that I should run for the Minnesota GOP Secretary. So last December, I took that step. And it made sense that because everything up until that point had been a family ordeal, my husband and Haley stood up there with me. Mac's not necessarily at an age where these all-day political events are her jam yet, so she wasn't up there, but I'm sure in the future she will be. As promised by this title, this was a quick explanation of my journey, but more importantly today, I wanted to share with you 5 tips that have truly helped me on this journey. Because my goal is, I want to make sure that I am helping people who also want to be on similar journeys. And as they're going on this journey, finding better balance with this new adventure. Because it's a lot. And especially if you're like me and you have any twinge of an addictive personality, it's important that you do not let this type of work and this hobby, essentially for some people, you don't want it to consume you. So I want to share these 5 tips. Hopefully it helps you dial in your focus and helps you really get after this new purpose with passion, but not addictive tendencies. So my first tip for you is make sure that you're educating yourself. Stay informed about current events and learn about the issues that matter to you most. I always tell people, pick your hills. There are so many issues out there. Especially in today's time, we are facing some new ones that have never even been around. So it's really important to pick which ones really matter to you. The ones that you are willing to stand and fight for. For me personally, it's anything to do with, the kids, children, education, public safety, things of that sort, things that are really going to impact not only my kids, but other people's kids as well. If you try to go after every single issue, you're going to drive yourself crazy. Not to mention, if you're trying to go after so many things, you're splitting your focus so many directions, you're actually having less impact. My second tip, get organized, meaning join local groups. Find ways to get involved within your own community. Our party, the Republican Party, we are grassroots, which means joining at those basic levels are where the magic really starts to happen. So again, going back to my tip from earlier, check those links. Check out where is my local BPOU. Learn more about affiliates. These are the grassroots that really give the party power. Tip number 3, make your voice heard. Contact your elected officials. Attend town hall meetings if they're having them, or if they have office hours, and make sure that you're speaking up in public forums in professional ways. I will share another link that I have about how to find, hey, who is my local representative, right? That's step 1 to making sure that your voice can be heard. But reach out to these people, because even if you did not vote for them, but they're still representing you, they are supposed to hear and work for their constituency, even if that person didn't necessarily vote them in. So for example, obviously, if you follow me, I'm the Minnesota GOP, so Republican side, secretary. All of my representatives currently are from the DFL. I still wrote to them about a couple different bills because it's still important that they're hearing from their constituency, even if I didn't necessarily vote for them. Tip number 4, lead by example. Show your kids the importance of being active citizens and how to make sure that you're advocating for the changes that you want to see. This one right here is the gas to my fire. This is what gets me going. I'll be honest, it's almost like my soapbox completely, because when I hear people bitching and moaning and doing nothing, it is the most annoying thing to me. It is so important that not only are we sitting behind our keyboard complaining, we actually take the steps to take a stand. I think that it really doesn't mean much if we're not able to actually stand up and fight for what we have value in. Action is what earns respect. I tell my coaching clients the same thing all the time. Stop bitching you can't work out or that you can't eat healthy because of your kids. I can't work out because they're bothering me, or I can't eat healthy because they're picky eaters. Be the example, right? They learn from what we do, period. And I can tell you, 10 years down the road, if you look at your kid and you're like, well, honey, I complained about it on Facebook, they're not going to care. It's going to matter more of, honey, I tried. Like I did X, Y, Z. So, stepping off that soapbox, moving into tip number 5, my final tip for you. Stay positive and persevere. Advocacy can be a long and difficult journey. I can tell you that firsthand. And I've only been on this road for roughly 3 years. But it is important to stay motivated and to continue to push for the change you want to see. Focus on solutions and positive change rather than just dwelling and bitching and moaning about the problems. A lot of my previous tips also kind of slide into this one very nicely. They fuel it. Surrounding yourself with like-minded people to keep you on track, continuing to remember what drove you into this, especially if it's your kids, and not trying to tackle absolutely every issue. Following those tips are going to help you stay more positive. But another tip that does help me with this is limiting my exposure. Sometimes I have to shut down my social media and the news, or, shut down people who want to have conversations. Not all the time, because my head is definitely not dug into the sand, but limiting it so that you can better manage your emotions and your mental health. And my final tip with, working on that positivity and having the strength to persevere, God. Pray. God is what brings us hope. In the end, we all know He wins. But right now, in the middle of the battle, it can feel so defeating and so frustrating. Pray. The journey of this young suburban mom into a politico has been transformative, to say the least. From voting sometimes, to working campaigns, running my own campaign, creating a YouTube for the political curious, and exposing my kids to events that many adults won't even go to. And per my usual, forging down this path and hoping to help others if they plan on taking any similar steps themselves. So remember my tips. Educate yourself. Get organized. Join some local groups. And make sure you're finding those like-minded individuals to help keep you positive. So remember, you too can make positive change in your community and beyond. Don't forget to check out the show notes for more information on the How Gal, Kelly Jahner-Byrne, and become the best version of yourself for business with her tools and guidance. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Ramblings of an Addict with Jenna Dix. Remember, if you are battling an addiction, reach out for help and support. There are many resources available to assist in your journey towards recovery. Surround yourself with a supportive community and never give up on the path towards a healthier and happier life. I appreciate you taking the time to listen and joining me on this journey. As you heard, I'm always rambling. But seriously, thank you for your support and make sure to subscribe and follow my channel. I can't wait to share more with you on the next episode. Until then, keep on rambling. If you have found this podcast helpful and want to dive deeper into personal growth and self-improvement, be sure to head over to my website, jennadix.com. You'll find a wealth of resources there. There is a little less drugs, sex, and rock and roll these days, but whether you're interested in getting healthy, information on momming or parenting, or politics, jennadix.com has something for everyone. So, what are you waiting for? Head to jennadix.com today and start your journey towards personal growth and self-awareness. See you there.